Welcome to Financial Focus, brought to you by Gulf Coast Financial Services founder and CEO, John Kuykendall. John and his team of financial, legal, and tax professionals have provided North Florida savers and investors sound, comprehensive financial guidance for over 25 years, helping you to achieve important life and planning goals. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more Financial Focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net.
And welcome into the program. This is Financial Focus, brought to you by the best of the best in financial services, as named by the Lake City Reporter, 6 years and running, the team from Gulf Coast Financial Services. And with us now, founder, CEO, John Kuykendall. John, as always, we appreciate you providing the guidance and the insight.
Thank you, Peter. It's great to be here. I'm really excited about today's show, and I'm really glad that the weather is getting warmer, and I'm going to be able to get in that pool pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, we're there. We're diving in a little cold when you first enter, but trying to get into the summer routine here. John, we always appreciate the fact that you provide us a lot of resources here on the program, on air, and then, of course, there at Gulf Coast Financial Services and sister company Gulf Coast Tax Advantage. Lots of resources for savers and investors, those that are building toward retirement, those are already retired and have accumulated a large net worth, can do some proactive planning to make sure we're keeping the most of it as possible. So we always appreciate the guidance, but here on air, on the podcast, you always provide, some insight, some steps, and a lot of times you make available kind of reports for us, lists of things that we need to do, checklist items kind of things that we need to understand to prepare. Now, going into depth on today's list, are you ready to retire? Sure, I'm ready mentally and emotionally, but financially, maybe not so much after I look at this list.
Well, that's the problem, Peter. We're all ready to retire. The question is, can we retire? And what have we done to get ready to retire? And, the thing about it is we need to, there's a list, a checklist here I really like. We'd be glad to send that out to anybody that wants to go on the website and request it. I think it's a great checklist to follow. But number one is, how long would you be able to generate income if your paycheck stopped tomorrow? Now, that's the thing about in retirement, we're not going to have a paycheck. We're going to have Social Security. And if you're lucky enough to have a pension, then you're going to have a pension. But that weekly, twice a month, monthly paycheck from the employer is not coming in. So how long can you last without a paycheck? Mm-hmm. It's a hard thing to get used to. A lot of people don't realize that, they're going to be paying themselves in retirement. I think they don't think about it. So how much money can I pay myself in retirement?
Yep. Well, I like the phrasing of this first question, John, because I think the rest of these really pertain not 100% exclusively, but more geared toward retirement, where this one, it got me thinking, like, if my paycheck stopped tomorrow, how long would I be able to generate the income? And that's why you always suggest having that emergency account 3 to 6 months. I say that I'm ready to retire, but I'm probably not prepared to, because much beyond that, I'm not sure if I'm going to continue to generate the paycheck and the income, but we plan to retire. And on that day, we hope that our money and the income lasts for another 30, 35, 40 years from that point. So we really do need to have a plan and have addressed this number one question, no matter where we're at in our financial path and progress.
Right. Well, right, Peter, because what happens is a lot of people, they've got a job, they're doing well, they're spending money, they're buying the big screen TV, they're doing all the things that they want to do, but they really don't have that rainy day fund, that 6 months in reserve, that if my company got downsized tomorrow and I didn't have a paycheck, how long am I going to be able to last without going into my 401k or my retirement savings, which will just devastate your retirement plan? How long can I last before I need to hit my retirement plans? So we recommend 6 months of something set aside in a liquid account, not invested in the market. It can be in the bank. That's fine. We just want it liquid. We want it not exposed to the market. And we want you to have that cushion so that if you need it, you've got it without having to hit that 401k and taking money out and paying the penalty.
Yeah, because how far off does that end up pushing your retirement goals if you dip into that savings early? And a lot of people think about that as the emergency stopgap, or even kind of a piggy bank to put the pool in the backyard. But ultimately, that is putting your retirement goals of being able to enjoy that pool back that much further. So number 2, and here's, John, where I think this list really starts to get into the math, the calculating. Are you truly ready to retire? Have you identified and calculated your retirement income gap? You've talked about this with income allocation. You go through this mathematical process with savers and investors that come into your office to really get to the gears and the mechanisms of how to structure the assets for retirement, right?
Yeah, you have to know how much money you're going to need coming in each month to make your bills, to pay the non-discretionary items that you have to pay every month. How much am I going to need, and where am I going to get that? And so when we look at that, we're looking at subtracting out Social Security, subtracting out any annuities or any pensions we've got. And then that leaves us with our income gap when we subtract our expenses. And then from that, we've got to figure out how we're going to prepare for that and where we're going to get the money and in what order we're going to draw that money out of our savings or retirement. It makes a difference tax-wise how we take it out.
Well, it's all part of that financially focused retirement plan. So if you have not gone through this process, if you'd like to go through it, if you'd like to double check your projections for that retirement income gap and how your accounts, your assets, those retirement dollars are going to fill that income gap, pick up the phone, give John Kuykendall and his team there at Gulf Coast Financial Services a call, 386-755-9018, because this is the beginning part of the process to know if you are truly ready. Are you prepared to retire? Number 3, do you know how much you have available in discretionary assets over and above what you'll need to generate income? Because, John, we know we've got a baseline need for that income to pay the bills, but we don't want retirement to be about subsistence. We want it to be about lifestyle. We want it to be about enjoyment. And that's what that discretionary assets is going to provide for us.
Well, sure, it's going to provide for the trips. It's going to provide for the vacations when you travel. You got to remember, when you retire, you're going to be home 24 hours a day, and you're going to want to be out doing things, especially if you're able. And we like for our clients, when they first start retirement, we like for them to do things because those are the years that they can do things. They can take the cruise. They can take the Alaska Railroad. They can do the things that they want to do. And we set aside money for that in our plan, in that financial focus plan. We set that aside so that we know that, okay, I'm going to play golf 7 days a week. This is how much money I'm going to need. And we include it in that budget. I mean, I've got one client that plays golf twice a day, 7 days a week.
Must be nice, and probably has a plan to help support his confidence in being able to do that. So again, the questions on this list, ladies and gentlemen, that is what can give you the confidence, having answers to the questions, rather. If they're just questions in your mind, you know that, hey, maybe I need some time and attention. But that's why John and his team there at Gulf Coast Financial Services help savers and investors craft that financially focused retirement plan. That's why they make the list available. I mean, if retirement has been on your mind or your spouse's mind, or if you've got a coworker who's been talking about it at work, go ahead and request this list. Go online to that gulfcoastfinancialservices.net website. Request this one-page report, these 12 questions to get you thinking about the important topics. Hand it to that coworker. Hand it to your parents or your kids if they're thinking about retirement. Hand it to your spouse if they're thinking about it. Go over this on your own time and say, yes, we've got an answer to this, or maybe no, we don't, and we need some time and attention. And then you can take that extra step and go through the financial focus planning process with John and the team there. And John, I know that, growth, safety, liquidity, income, achieving all of those things, that's what diversification is about. But sometimes we forget to double check up on our progress. And that's what number 5 is about on this list. Have you met with a planner or advisor to check up on your progress? Have you met those goals? Are you setting new goals each and every year?
Well, that's true, Peter. It's not like you can't just put it aside and not do anything with it. We have to make sure that we're looking at it, reviewing it. We like for people to come in and take that plan. If they're going to change, if they're going to buy a car, they're going to do something different. We like for them to come in and let's review that plan at that time so that we can update it. And at least once a year we want to review that plan to see where we are. I mean, that's what we have to do.
Well, again, if you need to review your current plan, pick up the phone, give John Kuykendall a call, Gulf Coast Financial Services, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. I guess we can't realistically have a conversation about retirement and about how to be prepared for retirement while we ignore Social Security. We've got to address that. John, a lot of people do ignore it, though, or at least don't put a lot of thought and time into how to make the most out of Social Security. That can be a big blind spot and oversight in planning, because that can make a huge difference in how much we need to generate from our personal savings and assets.
Well, sure, Peter, and we can be leaving money on the table, but you can't ask Social Security to help you with that. We had an example this morning where we had to call Social Security because the IRMA test, as you know, for the Medicare Part B, we have to worry about how the income affects that. So we were talking to the individual about a Roth conversion, and the guy on Social Security was trying to convince our client that he could make the same interest in his IRA as he could in his Roth. Why was he doing the conversion? And we're trying to explain to him that we're not doing it for income. We're doing it to save taxes later. And, that was over his head. He didn't even comprehend that. So you don't want to go to Social Security or Medicare to get advice. They're not going to give it to you. They're not paid for that.
Right. And you can't think of it in a vacuum. You can't make that decision on Social Security without incorporating it into your larger financial and retirement plan. And that's exactly what they do there at Gulf Coast Financial Services, is help you make an informed, well thought through decision on how this piece of the puzzle helps to maximize income and protect as much as possible of your personal assets. And again, that's part of the review, part of the financial focused income plan. John, next one, the cost of medical care, long-term care expenses. Should you or your spouse require care, have you thought about how you're going to address those costs?
Well, we have to figure that in, Peter. And a lot of people don't think about it. They don't realize that medical expenses are one of the major expenses in retirement, in addition to taxes. So we're going to look at that. We're going to figure out how we're going to get long-term care with what the assets they have. We're going to work out a plan for them so that we can take care of them. We're also going to look at what happens to Social Security when one of them dies. So we want it, because we're going to lose one half of that income. So why not take that into consideration at the time, as well as we're going to take into consideration inflation. I mean, right now we have inflation.
Sure do.
I mean, everything's going to cost more. And if it doesn't cost more today, next month it will cost more.
That's right.
So we've got to take into consideration. You can't say that I'm going to retire on $5,000 a month now and expect in 2 years to be living on the same $5,000, or you're not going to be living the same lifestyle.
John, a couple of the questions here I think are sometimes misconceptions in people's minds, or we have been led to think in one way and have a certain paradigm about them, when in reality, we really need to examine this carefully. But do you know how much of your working career income you will need to replace in order to support your retirement lifestyle? And then do you know the cash flow that your savings can generate for you? When we've been told, hey, the market, it always averages 8 or 9 or 10% rate of return, people think that they can generate a much higher cash flow than what has reasonably been considered a sustainable cash flow in retirements. By all Wall Street estimations, it is significantly lower than that average rate of return that we've been told about.
Oh yeah, Peter, we're going to be needing money from our accounts every month. Now, the stock market's not up 9% every month on all throughout history.
Right.
It is very volatile. It goes up and down. And there's some months I'm going to be pulling money out when I'm going to be in a negative position as far as growth. And I may have eroded a little principal. So, it's anywhere from 2 to 4%. We like the 2% better than the 4%. We think it's more conservative. But, if I'm the estimates right now is I'm going to need 80% of what I'm making right now to live in retirement.
Okay.
I mean, used to be 70, now it's 80.
Okay.
So
I can see that if I'm saving 20% toward my retirement.
Yeah.
But John, I know in my household, what comes home finds a way to get spent. And saving is a part of that budget. But generally, if it comes home, I don't tend to keep it around there and say, oh, that was unneeded income. I find something for those dollars to do. And if we're only replacing a portion of it, we need to make sure that amount, whatever percentage it is, actually does pay to support our lifestyle.
Right. I mean, we have to make sure, and that's why while we're working, we have to really work our retirement accounts, make sure that our 401k is invested, allocated the best way it can be. When the market's down, we don't want to stay in those growth funds. We want to get into something else. So we have to work our assets while we're working, and then they will work for us in retirement. But you can't say that, okay, I need $100,000 and I've got, 400,000 saved up, and it's going to carry me. It won't do it. I mean, that just doesn't work.
Circling back for a moment, John, you had a thought in my head. I know with these financial focused income plans that you put together, you mentioned inflation. Inflation is here. It is real. And it doesn't just happen when we notice it in a big way like what we've seen over the last several months and so far this year. It happens pretty much each year. With those plans that you put together, you have talked before about how you can include some amount of increasing income and pay raises throughout retirement. You're helping clients actually structure that in as part of their plan. A lot of plans seem to ignore that.
Well, that you can't ignore it because everything is going to cost more. I can't help that. It's just what it's going to do. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure we've got that structured in the plan, and then we can take and allocate and work around that. I'd much rather know that 50,000 a day is going to be 70,000 in 10 years or whatever the number, so that I can work that into the plan than to give you a plan that's going to show that we're going to be everything glorious and we're going to have all this money left over to give to the grandkids and the kids, and we run out of money. I mean, there's nothing worse than me having to call a client and tell them that they can't make their draw next month because they're out of money.
Yeah, no, I imagine that's not a pleasant conversation, but through the planning process that you do, the financial focused income planning with income allocation, you get to avoid many of those conversations.
Yes, we do. And the ones that we don't avoid are the ones who haven't planned. I mean, you have a client who has $2 million and in 20 years, they're out of money. There's no reason for that. Had we planned, we could have avoided that. But, procrastination and also the fact that, I got plenty of money. I don't need it.
We call it Superman syndrome, invincibility. That kind of money at a certain point mentally, we feel like, oh, well, this will never happen to me. I've put myself in a situation where that can't happen. But if we leave our assets exposed to the market, I mean, over the last 100 years, John, there have been multiple circumstances. About every 7 years, the market drops on average 30 to 40%. If that $2 million suddenly became $1.2 million, maybe we're a little less confident at that point in time.
Well, that's true, Peter. We don't have the time to make it up as we do when we're younger. We can't make it up when we're 50 or 55, getting ready for retirement, thinking about retirement. We don't have the time to build that back up. We have to be proactive, and that's what we try to do here. With the plan, we want to make sure that we've got the assets allocated right, and then we want to monitor them and be tactical in the investment, not just strategic. We want to be tactical.
Well, proactive tax planning to keep as much of your money as possible. Mm-hmm. Another issue brought up on this list. And then, John, the last issue here, I think exactly what you're talking about, having that plan in writing. Do you have a written retirement income allocation, a financially focused income plan for retirement in writing?
Yeah. Well, Peter, it's surprising when we do these plans for people. A lot of them come out very well and some don't. And then we have to tweak them, but they're all surprised. And they all understand when we get through explaining it to them, the pitfalls of retirement, what we're looking for and what we're trying to do for them. And we want to make sure that in the go-go years of retirement, they can go. Because there's nothing worse than being able to go, but having no money to go. And I can't go back to work unless I'm going to be the bag boy at Publix. And that's not fun for me, I don't think.
Right. Well, I know, again, through the planning process, John, is where you help people identify potential pitfalls and obstacles in their way into the future and plan to address them, to make sure that they've got a financially focused plan that gives them confidence once they do leave that paycheck behind by choice, or even, as you indicated, back circling full circle here to number one, if the paycheck stopped tomorrow, how do we address that issue? It's by having that plan, ladies and gentlemen. Pick up the phone, give a call, or visit online, gulfcoastfinancial.net. You can request this list there. You can give a call. You can request it over the phone. 386-755-9018. And after you get the list, going over it on your own time or with the spouse or your family or loved ones, or handing it to that coworker, if you need further assistance in addressing and formulating answers to these questions, well, that's the true value of tuning into the Financial Focus podcast each and every week. John, you and your team offer to help people get answers to these questions.
Yeah, Peter, and there's no time that's not that we can't start this. We should start it as early as we can, because the more time we have to save, the better retirement we're going to have.
Well, again, if you would like to get that plan put together, pick up the phone, give a call, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. John, I think you would agree that there are some strategies, ways to leverage money that certain savers and investors, that $2 million investor may have more opportunity to build a solid foundation, but it's really based on lifestyle and individual specifics. So you've got to find out what your plan is for your situation.
Well, you got to do that, and then also you have to stay with the plan. So when you're making changes to the plan, we need to input those and find out what the outcome's going to be and how's that going to affect my plan. So many people, the first thing they think about is, well, I want to pay the house off. Well, if I've got $500,000 in retirement and I owe $200,000 on my house, do I want to pay it off, or I got a house free and clear, but I may not be able to pay the taxes and the insurance.
Yeah. And by the way, if that money's in retirement accounts, you're probably going to lose that other $50,000 to taxes at least.
Yeah.
And now you've drained half of your retirement nest egg to have that paid off house. The ironic thing, John, if you pay off your house, that money's yours. If you go to the bank and ask to get some of it, their first question is, how are you plan on paying us back?
Right. Right. I've always said that, and being a former banker, when you don't need money, the bank will give it to you. But when you really need it, they're not going to give it to you.
Right.
And so there's nothing worse than being totally retired and then all of a sudden needing to refinance your house and them saying, well, you have no income. Mm-hmm. So how are you going to pay it back? Well,
That's why you've got to have that income plan in writing, so you can show them where the income is coming from. Well,
That's
again,
right.
It's one of the services that John and his team there at Gulf Coast Financial Services offer as a value to listeners, to viewers of this program. If you'd like to get your plan put together, or if you'd just like this list to go over on your own time, go to the website, gulfcoastfinancial.net, or give a call right now, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. John, always appreciate the time, the guidance, and the resources that you provide to North Central Florida area savers and investors.
Thank you, Peter. It's great to be here.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting gulfcoastfinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovacs Securities Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc. is not affiliated with with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions.